Well, welcome to another episode of The Minority Voice. I'm your host, Jeff Vega, and once again, we have Jeff Mentag back with us. But before we get started, once again, I want to remind you folks to please subscribe to the channel and make comments and share it too. As we try to educate you and build this platform. Well, Jeff, it's good to have you back. I love having conversations with you, especially since we're talking about the Founding Fathers, the Constitution, our history, because it's learning the truths from our past that's going to give us the roadmap moving forward.
Yes.
And there's just so much. And last time you were here, we talked about the Federalist Papers, what the purpose of it was, the authors. There were 3 different authors, and you alluded a time before about the 46 Federalist Papers, and there were 85. But so, how about if we just just dabble into that one a little bit today and see where it takes us?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. We could sit here and talk all day. In fact, Dave, your son over there, keeps telling us, "Hey, time."
Yeah, and he also said too that, hey, you guys, you just need to start filming as soon as you get together here, because we start talking about different things.
You know, I think one of the biggest arguments in forming the Constitution and vying for and against the Constitution, one of the biggest fears that they had was the federal government becoming too powerful. If 46 deals with that in a it's so thorough, and it deals actually with it says, resuming the subject of the last paper, I proceed to inquire whether the federal government or state governments will have the advantage with regard to the predilection and support of the people. Think about that. With regard to the predilection and support of the people, where do we hear it today? All of our emphasis coming. Oh, Joe Biden, he gonna increase food stamps, or he gonna do this, and Trump gonna cut this. He wants to give out food boxes. How dare he? Well, if you need food, that's why you applied for food stamps instead of taking them and cashing them in and doing something else with them. I digress. That's another subject. Okay. But we've come to a place where we're now, and many people now vote for the candidate or the platform that they think that's going to care for them or do the most for them. But that was one of the biggest fears of the Founding Fathers. That is the consolidation of powers in an all-powerful federal government. They say it right here, and it says, notwithstanding the different modes in which they are appointed, we must consider both of them as substantially dependent on the great body of the citizens of the United States. Now, that's just a quick phrase. It says substantially dependent on the great body of the United States, the people of the United States. Well, wasn't it, I believe it was Jefferson who said, a just government derives its power to govern from the governed. So regardless of whether we formed this Constitution or this compact or this agreement, this contract with America, if you want to put it that way, however we formed it, at the end of the day, the idea was that it would be the governed that gave their imprimatur, their stamp of approval to the governing state or federal government, to the rulers, so to speak. We would give our imprimatur to them. We would give permission to them to govern us. So I got a question. Do all of you out there, are you giving permission for us to spend another $6 or $8 or $9 trillion? Are you all in agreement with 5 or 6 or 7% agreement?
Well, you know what their
interest.
You know what their agreement is, that $1,200 stimulus check.
Right.
But not the other.
Right.
You want to. I'm gonna detour here a little bit on this since you brought this subject up.
Yeah.
This new one that they're talking about passing, that between that and all the stimulus that's happened since COVID, that if they would have took all that money, they could have given every American, I think it's either $56,000 or $65,000 apiece.
Sure.
Each.
Sure.
But on the flip side of that, as I am I'm a business guy. I look at it as okay. They're going to charge us $56,000. That's what it's costing us,
Right.
each one of us.
Yeah.
It's going to cost. And we didn't give them that permission. They just took it. And when you look at the Constitution, it says we the people.
Yeah.
We the people.
And,
that's been lost.
And we the people. We got a check.
I didn't know. I didn't get a check.
But
I unfortunately.
But we're also getting a bill. Y'all say we ain't getting no bill. We're getting a bill. Okay, 6% in inflation in the last quarter generally, and that is relative to the last increase that big was in the 90s, and now you've had a 95-cent increase in the gas price since a few months before Trump left. We're no longer energy independent as we were in November of 2019. We ceased importing. We exported more than we imported. We were energy independent. Now the cost of gas, you say, oh, well, come on, it's a few more dollars. Okay, well, what about the people in the rural, cold Northeast? What about the people in the Dakotas? People that don't have a lot of money. There's not a lot of interest. They have to pay with home heating oil. People in northern Michigan. And the price of that is going through the roof. Are they going to be able to afford to heat their homes?
Well, they won't have to worry about it because if Whitmer gets rid of Line 5, they won't have any energy to buy.
Any propane.
Right. So they'll be cutting down trees. And that's not funny, but that's why our founding fathers did not want our government to be lording over us.
So powerful.
And
so powerful.
And they are. And I used to be on school board. I don't know if I've told you that. But they dangle this money over all these school boards and the state, and basically it's their carrot to keep us under control.
Spend it or else.
Yeah,
you better find a way to spend it.
But you would adhere to our guidelines.
Yes.
I remember I was on school board when the Obamas were in office, and Michelle had this Eat Healthy stuff program, and I kid you not. The stuff that we had to provide on the menu for the kids, they didn't buy it.
Right.
And you know where it went? Went in the garbage.
Right.
Because some of that stuff is it spoiled. So it had a shelf life, and but that's how they manipulate us. And the founders were definitely scared. Even George Washington, they wanted to make him king, and he said no. We just left that. We're not going back to a ruler like that. It's about the individual's rights.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much. And in 46, there's great argument to be cautious of a standing army. And in this overview, in Federalist 41, in the overview of constitutional powers, one of the things that it talks about, how could we limit defensive force without the ability to limit our enemy's offensive forces. And it goes on to say, a standing force thus is listen now, Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines, nothing against you veterans, I'm a veteran. But it says a standing force thus is a dangerous necessity. They viewed a standing force, an all-powerful central government and centralized power of the military as something dangerous. All we got to do is look in Washington, D.C. They still got a fence up over a dangerous insurrection where nobody had weapons. The only person shot was a person crawling through a window who was unarmed. And yet we don't know that cop's name. We don't know who he is. We don't know why he shot. We don't know anything.
We do know who he is, but they're not publicly announcing it.
Yeah, they're not publicly announcing it.
But they know, and the media won't share it either.
Right, but here's a chick just crawling through a window. Should she have crawled through the window? No, she should have gone in through the door. They opened it for her. Right. But she crawled through the window, and he shot her through the neck and killed her. He's not going to be charged. He's not going to be charged.
But you know what? Let a police officer discharge his gun.
Yeah.
And they get charged in a heartbeat.
Sure.
So
it's a dangerous thing being a cop.
Yeah.
So the danger of disunion cannot be exaggerated. They went through a number of these arguments, and they give the reasons for these arguments. The point that I think that you and I are discussing right now, we discussed inflation, the price of gas. This is not the product of greedy companies. This is the product of government taxation and government power. 60 cents or more of every barrel of oil goes to the government. 40 cents or so to the federal government.
You mean a gallon, not a barrel. Gallon.
60%.
Oh, 60%.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Sorry.
Right,
So
okay.
it boils down the same.
Right.
But yeah, 60%. And then you have local, federal, state taxes. And by the time the oil company actually gets their profit, it's somewhere around 10, 11, 12%. That's it. That's all they get. Yet they make billions of dollars because they pump so much of it. But if you really want to do it by percentage, the greedy people are the government. They're taking all kinds of money for permits, for fees, for research, for setup, for building permits, for drilling permits, for taxes, for roads. They take all this money, which drives the cost of doing business up and makes it more expensive for you and I to do our business, to do our commerce, to ship our goods and services, to take them to stores, to drive back and forth to the store, to take the kids to daycare. This, what we see happening right now, is the fault of government. All of it, including the response to the pandemic and all this. And why is that important to our discussion today? People will say, you guys are you took a side road. It's important to our discussion today because if they did not have it, if we had not surrendered the power to them that they now have over our lives, we wouldn't be in this position. Who are they to tell you to wear a mask, to get a shot, to have a vaccine passport? A woman can, if I marry a woman and she gets pregnant and I say, I don't want that baby, she can have it without my permission, right? Which I should never tell her to kill the baby, and I wouldn't. But she can abort it without my permission. I could say, you're not going to kill my baby. And it's, quote, her body, her choice. But when it comes to COVID, by God, you're going to get that shot and you're going to wear a mask. It's no longer your body, your choice. So it's all based on what they want to do because they're so powerful. And I'll tell you, I don't care what side of the political aisle that you're on, whoever you are, you should be very scared of that, whatever your political position is.
I agree 100%, because right now, what people don't realize, all your liberties and freedoms are being taken away. Just one bit at a time.
They're gone.
Well,
I submit and suggest that they're gone, and they give you, like the carrot, they give you a taste of freedom. Mm-hmm. But really, we need to start thinking of taking them back, seizing them back from the federal government.
And you know what? It ain't going to be easy, and it's going to be painful. But the reality is, do we want to be a Cuba?
No.
We want to be a Russia?
No.
We want to be China? And if we don't take the steps now, we're well on the way there now. But the reality is, that's what it will be. Well, hey Jeff, you know what? It's been good. I've enjoyed this. And I know it's short. Let's do this again. Okay. I'd like to do this on a regular basis, so we can educate some people on our Constitution and what our founding fathers, what they really intended. All right.
Sounds good.
It's been good. Once again, folks, remember Joshua 24:15.